10%. Just 10%. My boss's laughter hit me like a slap. It echoed around his glass-walled office while I stood there clutching my 40-page portfolio of achievements. 12 years. 12 years of late nights, algorithms that saved the company millions, and weekends I gave up without complaint. Ivy, you want a raise after what? 12 years? Garrick leaned back in his chair, still chuckling. Everyone's replaceable, even you. If you think you're worth more, try your luck elsewhere. Something inside me snapped. Not my heart. Something deeper, the quiet belief that loyalty and hard work would eventually matter. I'm Ivy Reeves, 34, supply chain algorithm specialist. The kind of person who apologizes when someone else bumps into her. The woman who stayed at Porter Logistics for 12 years, paid 20% below market, because I believed in the mission. Because my dad worked 35 years at the same factory and always said loyalty matters. That afternoon, I walked back to my cubicle. Yes, still a cubicle after 12 years. Past the offices of managers who'd been there half as long. My screen showed the company newsletter praising Garrick's innovative supply chain revolution. My revolution, my 18-hour days, my code that cut delivery times in half and saved our biggest client, Eastwood, 40% on logistics costs. I opened my drawer and pulled out a worn leather notebook. Inside were my personal projects, ideas I'd built on my own laptop, on my own time, with dated entries proving everything. The company had used several of them without ever formally buying the rights. Their sloppy contracts only covered work done on company time with company resources. My best stuff? That was mine. I stared at my phone. A message from Hayden at our biggest competitor, Radius Shipping, still sat there from 6 months ago. The offer still stands. We value innovators here. 12 years of loyalty screamed at me to put the phone down. Then I remembered Garrick's laugh. I hit call. 5 hours later, I sat across from Hayden at an upscale restaurant. He didn't waste time. I've followed the leaps in Porter's capabilities that magically appeared right after your quiet periods on LinkedIn. Those Eastwood algorithms? Revolutionary. Garrick couldn't have built them. He offered a leadership role, triple my salary, stock options, a real team, and, most importantly, my name on my work. When I mentioned my personal innovations, he smiled. We have a proper IP process with fair compensation. We don't steal our people's ideas. 2 weeks later, I placed my resignation letter on Garrick's desk. His smirk faded the moment I said I was going to Radius. My last 2 weeks were calm. I trained my replacement, backed up every piece of personal documentation, and politely refused to sign a new non-compete. In the exit interview, I calmly told legal counsel Vance that I was only taking what had always been mine. He looked pale when he realized the core systems running the entire company had never been properly acquired. I walked out of Porter's headquarters at 5:17 p.m. on a Friday, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Free. 6 weeks after I started at Radius, my new team rolled out the first version of my systems. Delivery times dropped 30%. Costs fell 25%. Soon, Eastwood switched their massive contract to us. Garrick called multiple times, begging for a consulting conversation. I let it go to voicemail. Then one evening, he was waiting by my car in the Radius parking garage. "You've put hundreds of jobs at risk," he hissed. "This looks like corporate espionage." I kept my voice steady. I didn't take anything that belonged to Porter. I took my personal intellectual property that your team was too careless and too dismissive to secure. You told me everyone's replaceable. I just followed your advice. Porter's stock crashed 60% in the following quarter. They laid off over 200 people. Garrick resigned under pressure. Industry articles called it a catastrophic talent failure. The lawsuit came next. It collapsed the moment my dated notebook and email records proved the algorithms were personal projects. The judge dismissed the case, noting Porter's failure to secure proper ownership. A few weeks later, Garrick showed up at my office looking broken. "You destroyed everything." "No," I said quietly. "You did that the day you laughed at a 10% raise after I'd saved the company millions. You treated people like disposable parts. I just stopped letting myself be one of them." The guilt hit me hard in the following months. I thought about the families affected by the layoffs, people who had nothing to do with Garrick's arrogance. Marlene, A 56-year-old customer service veteran I'd known for years came to see me. She'd lost her job, too. "Was it worth it, Ivy?" she asked, looking around my new corner office. "All this, while the rest of us paid the price?" Her words stayed with me for days. Revenge tasted bittersweet. That's why I walked into my boss Hayden's office with a detailed spreadsheet of every displaced Porter employee I could identify. I proposed Operation Rebound, a formal recruitment drive, training partnerships, and placement support for those we couldn't hire directly. Hayden studied the list, then nodded. "Draft it. We'll take it to the board." The program launched 3 weeks later. Radius committed to interviewing every qualified former Porter worker. Marlene eventually joined us as a consultant. Industry publications noticed our approach, and applications to Radius surged. 8 months on, my name is on the patents. My team has grown. Radius has captured a huge chunk of Porter's old market, but every time I look out my office window, I remember the weight. Justice for one person can still hurt innocent ones caught in the crossfire. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. Never let anyone convince you that your work, your ideas, or your worth is disposable. Document everything. Know your value. And when someone laughs at your reasonable request after years of loyalty, be ready to walk. Because sometimes walking away is the most powerful move you'll ever make.